So, greetings, dear friends, and welcome again to another AWB Live, a space where we gather with people who are truly making a difference in aging and the well being of Black elders in our community. Uh, as I share with you all of the time, Aging While Black is a multifaceted platform that elevates the voices of Black elders by amplifying their stories, perspectives, and realities. We generate collective learning and action around the systemic inequities faced by aging Black people and co create policy and people driven responses for a better today, tomorrow, and allowing Black elders to thrive in every aspect of life. Today, I am again thrilled to share space with someone whose work inspires and excites me. I'm excited to welcome Dr. Bashir Easter to AWB Live. Dr. Easter, welcome.
My brother, just I'm ready, excited. The same to you. I admire you very much and admire all the work you're doing, and I'm happy that I'm able to walk behind you and also beside you.
Thank you. So, over the last few days on our social media and otherwise, we've shared just a bit about you and your work. But how would you introduce yourself to our community?
So yes, I'm born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's where I really started my roots and all of the work. I have a business background. I went to school one night a week to be able to obtain my degrees because I didn't go traditionally to school right after high school. I actually started a family and started trying to live and learn life, right? But in that, I fell into my path because of my mother. My mother was diagnosed with dementia at the age of 55 and was showing signs at 50. And during that time, and me and my two sisters, we had no clue what the disease was. There was no direction on what supports that were out there. But the Lord put me on this path to be able to get people educated and to understand the disease as well. I also have four grown kids. My youngest is 21, my oldest is 27, and I have two girls in the middle. So two boys and two girls. So I also have relocated to the Texas area about 2 years ago after my mother passed. And so my journey started with her. And in doing so, I'm actually doing everything to have her test to now be a testimony.
And the thing that I would just like to name in that really important uh, and personal introduction that you shared there with the emphasis on personal is that one of the things that we see, Dr. Easter, consistently in this is the ultimate motivator for people's work is personal and passionate for
That is
them.
correct. That's right.
That it resides in some very real moment or set of experiences in their life. And thank you for sharing that with us. And I had the unbelievable pleasure for last month's Aging While Black live to sit and talk with my now 90-year-old mother
Mhm.
about her experiences in aging while black. Uh, so, what does the concept of aging while black bring to mind for you?
So interesting that we're in talking about this and that we even have this platform. So thank you for doing everything you do. You talk about your personal and professional, how it has merged to be able to now give back. I used to start actually change my profession. I have the business background, as I was stating, and I just had this unction that I wanted to do more to help more than just to be able to work at an organization or a business. And so I changed my degree and doing my bachelor's and got a human service management degree. And I say that because I started wanting to work into these different nonprofits or the public sector. And I started off in child welfare. And I
Mm.
take my hat off to anyone who is still or working in that, because in 2 years it drained me, right? It was a lot. But as I started looking for something else, I didn't even know what was out there. The Department on Aging called me, and they called and they stated, would you be interested to be a elder abuse investigator? And I did started that in that journey of understanding. But that's where I found my love for aging. You talk about the ages 59 and up and 55 and up. It just engulfed me, that you talk about the amount of respect and dignity that is needed. One of the things as I hear all the time, if God gives you that time, you'll get to that point as well. And so what does that look like? Right. And so what do you prepare now? And so my biggest thing now is to be able to make sure we focus on the dignity of the individuals who've given their life to be a part of that. And I want people to remember that, as well as I get older, there's a lot of nuances that goes along with how do I get older and what do I need to do in taking care of this temple that God has given us. And then what do I need to change in order to help somebody else have a better quality of life as well.
Yeah. Thank you. I love the emphasis that you placed on dignity. It is an important framing. Tell us about your journey with Melanin Minded LLC.
Thank you for that. So Melanin Minded started, as I say, you see right behind me is my mother. That's Dolores Pitts. And so I started this as I started working for the Department on Aging. What ended up happening was I started learning about all these resources, services, support 6 years after her diagnosis. And it was very interesting when we were talking about Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's not a big city or town. And you would think that this information should have gotten to us about resources, service supports that are out there, but it didn't. And so her quality of life was impacted because we didn't have the information that was literally down the street. And so in that, I started working at the county. And as I started working at the county and started realizing all the resources that they had. And when I say the county, it was Milwaukee County Department of Health and Human Services. It was the Department on Aging when I started there about 2011. And so when I realized that the state of Wisconsin started moving towards a what they call dementia redesign, as they started moving toward this for the state of Wisconsin, I became the first dementia care specialist for that county. And so what I started to do in that process was to try to build a community in the eyes of a caregiver. And what I started noticing were all these different gaps. Well, I stopped working for the county, total of 8 years there, and I started Melanin Minded. So Melanin Minded, the mission is to be the bridge for information, services, and supports for people of color. And the vision is to empower and equip people of color to have the ultimate quality of life. And the part of that is that you have, Raymond, is the bridge. That's the tag. We realize on both ends, the individuals that are needing the support and the also the organizations and all the resources are usually on one side of those on that bridge. And everything under that bridge is the reasons why they're not connecting. And it could be anything. It could be economic issues. It could be transportation issues. It could be just fear. It could be historical issues that cause that divide. But both sides are filling in these gaps, and they're not getting, it's either providing the service that the people need or the people are not getting the services. So we're doing our best to create these relationships, to be able to start focusing on the resources, to then be able to build this dignity for individuals. And that's any gap. And so we focused on Alzheimer's and the related dementias as the first piece, because that was a huge gap that was in our family's issue in regards to caring for my mother.
So you highlighted in talking about the framing of Melanin Minded, you used and emphasized the word bridge.
Yes.
When I look at your website, when I look at much of the information that you share and conversations that you have about the work that you do, there are some words that stand out to me that are associated with your work, and I'd like for you to just share with me why they are important to you.
Mm-hmm.
You just talked about an unpacked bridge for us. I also note you use the phrase support with a long term vision
Yes.
and empower and equip
Yes.
and optimal quality of life.
Yes.
Why are these important to you and the work that you do with Melanin Minded?
So what I noticed just in the this one gap we talk about with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, a lot of the times it's once you have the information, you can deal with any situation. That's what usually someone is mostly in, is in crisis. And what I say is you're not in crisis if you know and you have the tools to deal with the situation, because that's all it is at that point. And what I've noticed in our community, African American, Latino, and Asian communities, a lot of the times, the people that need the information don't have it and don't know where to go because they're dealing with the situation that's happening right now. So we the biggest thing is still those we talking about, those resources, services, supports. It should not be just someone handing it. Some people just need a whole hand held and walk them through the process. That's what we do with this disease. But not only that they use the term, not only am I going to feed you fish, I'm going to teach you how to fish. That same concept. So we empower and equip the family, the caregivers, the individuals who's living with and we say the family, we're talking about the youth as well. We give them all of the training, information, and also everything they need to walk this journey to then be able to make sure that that person has the dignity, both ends, caregivers and families and the person living with, all the way through. When we say quality of life, a lot of the times the mind state is once the person is diagnosed, they think of that person in a later stage. They
Right.
don't think of the part where they are still functioning, still good, and still having the ability. If you got the information, you'll be able to have a quality of life by still getting the things that you need while you are focusing on living. And that's what we make sure these individuals understand that you can. So we support that at every turn, every conversation, and every partnership is to be able to make sure that person has a quality of life with the information that we provide them.
So, Dr. Easter, you mentioned something in sharing and unpacking these words, and thank you for that. But you mentioned something that is a true distinctive of the work that I see you doing, and a quickly emerging aspect of aging realities and aging while black, and it is the role of young people. You
Yes.
talked about the youth. Say just a word about why that's on your radar and should be
Yes.
on ours.
So that's why I got my doctorate. I was watching my nieces and nephews and even my youth, my kids providing care for their grandmother. And each one of them had a different experience. And why did I even look at the youth? Where African Americans and Latinos are the hardest hit. African Americans are 2 times higher to be impacted by this disease. Latinos is 1.5 times higher to be impacted by the disease. And as we talk about culturally, we provide care as a whole unit. There's nobody that's not involved in regards to taking care of the loved one. It's not even just Alzheimer's or dementia. It could be normal aging. You're going to do something for your grandmother, for your grandfather, for your uncles and your aunts, right? Because we're a family. But in that, what I recognize with this disease, which is different than anything else, the youth are also providing this care with the lack of information, if not more lack of information.
Mm,
And the reason why they are is because the parents don't understand the disease. We didn't. They didn't understand providing care. So how are you going to say to your daughter or son, hey, can you sit with your grandmother? And then the grandmother starts having these behaviors. They don't remember their name. They're starting to wander. And so I started noticing my nieces and nephews. That was my first piece because we were providing this care. And my older nephew, he leaned all the way in. Like my mother was a double amputee. He would pick her up. I mean, doing things that you would say, this is amazing. My youngest niece, she was giving my mother injections of insulin at the age of 9. And people were like, how are you doing that? Because she had to. There's no one else coming in the home. My middle nephew, he rejected it. He didn't want to do the stuff. He didn't, it's too much for him. He felt like,
right.
why am I doing this at that? And so when we talk about our years of youth, we understand our identity through our friends, our family, sports, school, And in my research I've done, understanding the age group between 14 and 17 is the developmental level is understanding their identity. But so adding this unnatural, what do we say, stress of caregiving for someone that is living with the disease was too much for someone that doesn't understand. So they start filling in the gaps. So they start having PTSD, depression, but they also have resiliency. So what I start realizing is what do the youth need? Well, they need culturally appropriate and age appropriate training while doing this. They need a voice. So that's why we have a group called the Bridge Youth Program. They're called the Invisible Caregivers. And we're highlighting those youth to understand we need to prepare them. And so what we found out is we got a workforce development as well as economic stimulus to these youth that they now are getting trained for the things that they're already doing. They're getting paid for what they're already doing at home, which is high.
Mm.
And so what's happening is now we have this shortage of healthcare. We have these shortages, and it's because a lot of the youth are not even thinking this is something they want to do. But now by giving them this as a path, they're saying, I can give back and do this because I did it for my grandmother. So I want to go into healthcare. I want to go into civil service. I want to be the researchers and the doctors to understand this. I want to be the scientists. We're introducing to them early. And I did this also, just one more thing, Raymond, is I'm building it just in case I need it. I'm building it just in case everyone behind us that's younger can be to the point that they can find a cure. We're just exposing our Black and brown youth to this so they can realize that the things that they're already doing because of the love of their family, they can be supported, they can be paid for, and then they can be helped to move into these fields since we open the doors for them.
Thank you so much for that. So, broad question here.
Yes.
You narrow to in way that you work think best. What do you believe is necessary to ensure the realities of Black elders are acknowledged and addressed by the aging ecosystem in America?
You have behind you the Sankofa bird.
Yeah.
I see it. It says you have to look back, right? And recognize who has already been done doing the work, have done the work, right? Standing on the shoulders of giants. We hear that. I go back to everything that my mother has done. I look at my uncles. I look at people that have paved the way for me to even have this conversation. That is something that cannot be lost. It always has to be told. I'm big on making sure history is told and told correctly. And also am making sure that the people who have done the work and got to this point need to always be recognized and respected. And in doing so, when we say that, it is understanding that, again, I believe if God gives me that time, I'm going to get to that age. And all these individuals who have continued to strive and pull and push. And if it was my belief I did this on my own, I'd be lying to everyone that I'm talking to today.
Mm.
There's no way. So the main thing is in regards to that in aging is that there's no one I know. I didn't think of time and age. I remember when I was a certain age in high school, I never thought of any age except for if I got to 20, I thought that was old, right? If I thought to 30, I thought that was old, right? We start thinking of the time, like, but you don't go backwards, you continue to go forward till you continually see aging. I remember the time when I finally took a look up and said, oh my goodness, I'm in my 40s. I'm heading to my 50s. Is when I was having conversations with my kids. And the dialogue started to be different, right? The understanding of the times were different. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is where I am. And it felt good, right? I knew what I accomplished in life. I didn't feel like even the term getting older was something bad. I
Yes.
continue to say I'm getting better because of everything that I have adopted or I've learned through my trials. So my goal is to get the youth to see that early of respect as that time goes. So that's why they're a part of this intergenerational work. Is for them to understand you will glean from our leaders, as our leaders will be able to pull energy and glean from them. And that's the connection that we're trying to make.
Thank you for that. Um, I often see and hear of your work in the context of partnerships. Why is that important to you, Doctor?
So I mean, that we can't do nothing by ourselves. We can't. God has given us all individual gifts. And so I know what my gift is and I know what my limitations are. And one of the other things I'm very aware of is that God uses his people to help his people. So it is partnerships help build these pieces, because again, as I stated earlier, I'm not reinventing, or don't want to reinvent any wheels. There's something that's already out there. There's something that already can be utilized, and the partnerships help move those things together. The other thing that's important with the partnerships is allow me to move in different states. And so I work in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The work has now expanded to the Texas area because of partnerships that I made in the Texas area. They've also expanded and work in Atlanta because of these connections that I've had from Dr. Farron Epps. We talk about Sonia Gunther, yourself, Chuck Brown. We're doing some work together that's being brought here to the Texas area, right? These wouldn't happen until all of us started coming together and discussing the work we're doing, and then see how we can merge them together for all common good. And to see that push forward for our African American, Latino communities, and folks focus on us as our people of color, we need to see our people of color moving in this type of motion, moving this type of purpose, and moving in this type of process, and do it in an excellent way. And
Yeah.
that needs to be seen. And so I'm very appreciative that I know that partnerships help do things and move things forward. And so I'm always looking for someone to be able to partner with the work that we're doing. We say time, treasure, and talent. And we're also looking to do the same thing with other organizations. What can we do to help you in your efforts? So it's always a win-win situation with any connections and conversations.
So, my brother, this is so rich on so many levels. As we prepare to wrap up, uh, one of the traditions that we've established here is the sharing of the aging while black magic wand.
All right.
You have now had bestowed upon you this wand.
All right.
What are you going to transform about aging in America, and why?
The one thing is, we talked about the dignity. I'm focused on this disease because it has to be an understanding that we as a community have been calling it old timers for way too long. It is 2024 and we are really behind. So the goal of that, if I have that one, is to be able to get us to be able to, as a culture, to lean in, to understand until there's a cure, we are on the top of the list to be able to be impacted by the disease. And I want the ability that we can have a quality of life while living through it. But at the same time, while we are looking for that cure, that we all are in this, recognizing that this is different than any other disease that is out there. And it doesn't just deal with the mind, it also deals with other things that we also as a culture deal with: high blood pressure, diabetes, you name it. But the one main thing that I know for sure that has impacted us has been definitely research is stress. Stress is one of the major things that is impacting people of color. And it's not like our Caucasian brothers and sisters don't have high blood pressure, diabetes, and all that. The difference is that amount of stress that we've had over the decades, the centuries, from slavery on until today, that has gone from the mother into the birth canal to the womb to the child. Now the child's actually bringing on the stress from the mother and the father, and in that impacts us at a higher rate. So my goal is in this is to be able to educate, empower, and equip, to also educate the community, to help us in this effort to reduce not only the stigma of the disease, but also the burdens that we talk about. We talk about these focuses as well. I know that I want to add this one piece that on June 8th, this Saturday, we're having an event, and it's called Remember Me. And it's from Chuck Brown. That's actually had a conversation with Lou Gossett Jr. before he passed. A lot of people don't know that he was living with the disease. And so these are the pieces that we're talking about: the education and
Yes.
our community to be aware of this is something that's going on that we all need to come wrap around our arms around. And so we're making sure people understand that as we move this forward, these powerhouses of partners are coming to the Texas area, from the Dr. Epps, the Sonia Gunther, the Chuck Browns, and the people in to do this work in another state. To go with that magic wand we talked about is to be able to empower and equip, to reduce the stigma, get us out of these numbers of being highly impacted, and help and making sure that our community is well equipped with information services support to have a better quality of life, as the whole family needs that information.
Well, my brother, I am grateful for our partnership and friendship. I am
Yes.
thankful to even have this platform to elevate uh, folks like you who are doing important work for the right reason. Um, we put forth as our mission, our reason for existing at Aging While Black, that we exist to transform the aging landscape
Hmm.
by cultivating a vibrant network of partners, innovations, and opportunities that centers Black elders. What is your best hope for Aging While Black?
My hope is that I've left this world better. And in doing so, that I've been able to provide certain things, innovative things that you talked about that we can utilize right now. Not something that we are waiting for, something that we can utilize right now. As I talked about, the Navigator Transportation is the first dementia capable transportation service that we are focusing on. We're focused on seniors, people with limited disabilities, and people with mild cognitive impairment. That's leaving something better. The other thing we talked about is we're building these dementia villages to be able to help individuals understand who they are at the first stages of the disease, respecting them and educating the community about who they are. That's leaving the community better. We're building these pilots, starting in Milwaukee, we're building pilots in the Texas area, and then beyond. The hope and goal is that we're going to be leaving it better. And in doing so, the individuals that are a part of this, as we talk about these partnerships that we're doing, Raymond, is to be able to utilize all the resources and information that you have and other organizations and to tie into this so these things will be created for years to come and won't die on the vine. So that's my thoughts and my goals as we continue. And in doing so, we can build that, keep that dignity in our community. And also we can do everything for us and by us.
So, Dr. Easter, the best of conversations end with something that requires another conversation. And that is true here because you mentioned the pilot that you're doing with the navigators, and certainly aligns with the Aging While Black pillar around tech innovation and rapid change and impacting people's lives. You talk about the villages. And the first pillar of Aging While Black talks about recalibrating the village.
That's it. Come
How
on.
do we reestablish the infrastructure to support Black aging? But just this past week or so ago, I was actually reading an article that talked about the underrepresentation of older Black people in assisted living
Mhm.
and memory focused communities
Yes.
across this country. And it highlighted all of the reasons why that is. Uh, our challenge, our opportunity, our responsibility, my brother, is to make it be different
That's
and
right.
to be so. And you've already begun to do that work. We want to continue to lift you up and the village that is around you. Uh, and we'll get in this space again
Yes,
and
we
in
will.
spaces together to make a difference. Dr. Bashir Easter, God's blessings upon you. Thank you for the work you're lifting up, my brother. And as you always know, however I can be of support, I am here, and we'll get in this space and update the Aging While Black audience on the growth of your work at some point in the near future.
And I appreciate it all and appreciate all the ones who've been able to listen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you guys for joining us for Aging While Black Live. We'll see you here actually on July 12th. We're not going to do the first Wednesday, but the second Wednesday in July. So thank you for sharing